With Bayley as the new WWE Women's Champion and the other three horsewomen having taken different paths in this parts of their careers, it begs the question, are the four horsewomen stepping aside for the next generation of women wrestlers and superstars? After Rhea Ripley's defeat of Becky Lynch at Wrestlemania, a reporter asked if the horsewomen should step aside to let a new, younger talent take over as the face of the women's division. And stick around to the later part of this video to hear what Rhea Ripley had to say about that question at Wrestlemania. You have to admit, the four horsewomen have done so much for the WWE and wrestling in general. And today, we're going to take a look at each horsewoman's contribution to women's wrestling and debate if it's time for them to be actual role models for the women in the locker room, or if they should continue to stay on top of their divisions in the WWE and AEW. Hell, some people could even argue that Mercedes Mone is part of the foundation keeping AEW afloat right now. But we'll get to that issue later on in this video as well. In this video, we're going to take a look at a piece of history on how the four horsewomen laid the foundations of the women's division we know today. Let's get started. In the 2000s, the state of women's professional wrestling was a travesty. The absurdity of the storylines was so bad that the writers should be locked up in jail, to be honest. We got Dawn Marie marrying a 100-year-old man in their lingerie. We had the sexual chocolate Mark Henry hooking up with an 80-year-old Mae Young, and a Playboy Bunny Mania Lumberjill match. Really? Now, I know it was a time where that kind of stuff was popular, and the WWF or WWE wanted to provide entertainment to a certain demographic. So I get it, and I actually thought it was pretty entertaining when I was younger. Even Santino Marella, or should I say his sister, Santina Marella, couldn't stand it and decided to bring matters into his own hands and won the fastest battle royale in the history of pro wrestling. But on July 13th, 2015, the WWE Women's Division was forever changed as the WWE scrapped the Divas terminology and changed it to Superstars in what became known as the Women's Revolution. Stephanie McMahon introduced the newest NXT Women Superstars to the main roster, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch. Little did wrestling fans know, these three would become part of the four horsewomen who changed women's wrestling forever. And now, almost a decade later, it's their time to pave the way for the next generation. Oddly enough, the last one to stay in NXT and the last one to be moved up to the main roster was Bayley, as she was seen as the most underappreciated member of the horsewomen. Since NXT was revamped by the WWE, there's only been a handful of women that dominated the yellow brand: Paige and the four horsewomen, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Bayley. Paige, or Saraya nowadays if you watch Tony Khan's wrestling product, was the inaugural NXT Women's Champion. Just under a year later, she debuted on the main roster. And who could have forgotten her match against AJ Lee, where she won the Divas title in her freaking debut? Right there, it was obvious that the women's division was going in a different direction, and it was starting in NXT. Right after Paige claimed the Divas Championship, she was forced to relinquish her NXT title. Then GM William Regal established a tournament to determine the heir to the throne. And the tournament was stacked. The names of Natalya, Alexa Bliss, Alicia Fox, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Charlotte were in the tournament. It was clear that winning this title could mean the main roster ticket was absolute. Charlotte dominated Natalya in the finals and kicked off a new era in NXT. All hail the Queen. Charlotte, if some of you still don't know, is the daughter of the 16-time world champion Ric Flair. And WWE bills her just like her dad: expensive, sparkly, and narcissistic, but a damn good storyteller both in the ring and on the mic. Charlotte even adopted her dad's signature, "Woo!" Growing up, Charlotte had wrestling injected into her very blood. Her natural size and prowess stood over everybody else, and just like her father, Charlotte was oozing with charisma. The Queen has been reigning supreme, and she's not alone at the top. Bayley was everyone's favorite hugger at the start of the women's revolution. Bayley and Charlotte's personas were like night and day. Bayley was more of the happy-go-lucky type and was loved by everyone. NXT fans loved her, but it wasn't enough for the WWE to put over Bayley, as she lost 2 title matches to Charlotte in the next few months. And well, Bayley's not the last one. Everyone wanted a piece of that gold strapped around the Queen's waist, and that includes the boss, Sasha Banks. Being a cousin of Snoop Dogg is certainly very cool, but Sasha has this natural swagger around her that nobody can deny. It wasn't anywhere near Charlotte or Bayley. Sasha has this unique personality that WWE fans love but also despise. Sasha was just the perfect heel. The way she sells a compelling story was underrated, and that's why they picked her to be the rightful successor to Charlotte's historic NXT reign. But when talking about underrated, this last and final member of the Four Horsewomen should be mentioned, the steampunk Irish lass kicker, Becky Lynch. Only a handful of people batted an eye at Becky. At first, she wasn't as charismatic, loved, or despised as the rest of the horsewomen. But Becky has this passion in her eyes every time she wrestles. The ferocity and tenacity of the Irish lass kicker resonate throughout the arena every time she's in the ring. I kinda miss the steampunk era of Becky Lynch, but you kinda have to admit she's grown into the man persona very well, and it's carried her to the top for a decade. It's incredible to think that every single one of them has this unique personality that can't be compared to anyone else. Yet every time they were in the ring, it felt special. On February 11th, 2015 at NXT TakeOver Rival, the wrestling world was shown a glimpse of the future as the Four Horsewomen competed in a fatal four-way match for the coveted NXT Women's title. At that time, no one had any idea that these four women would be the faces of the company. Sasha Banks ultimately won the fatal four-way match, ending Charlotte's reign at 258 days. Just months after the match, the higher-ups recognized that while the main roster's women's division was failing, the NXT's Four Horsewomen were making a name for themselves. Stephanie McMahon called for a revolution. Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky made their debut as a symbol of a new era in the WWE women's division. Bayley, on the other hand, was trusted to carry NXT as she conquered Sasha for the title to earn her first ever title in the company. And yeah, the rest was history. Every single year, the Four Horsewomen have been revolutionary. At WrestleMania 32, 7 months after Charlotte took the throne and won the Divas Championship against Nikki Bella, the company decided to deactivate the old title and introduce the WWE Women's Championship. And who did Charlotte face at WrestleMania 32? How about some familiar faces? Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks in a triple threat match. And it was a show stealer. Since then, the women's division has never been the same, and that's for the better. In 2016, WWE introduced 2 women's titles after the brand split for Raw and SmackDown. After that, the very first women's Money in the Bank. In 2018, the very first women's Royal Rumble. At WrestleMania 35, the first ever women's main event match in WrestleMania history. And at the core of all that, the Four Horsewomen. Just hear this. The 4 of them, ever since their establishment of the titles in 2016, have won the women's title a combined 29 times. But not just that. Becky, Charlotte, and Bayley won 3 out of the 7 women's Royal Rumbles. In the last 9 WrestleManias, every single one of the Four Horsewomen has been featured in a women's title match. And it produced countless legendary moments in the modern era. The underdog in Becky Lynch becoming the man. Becky 2 belts, Sasha Banks and Bayley's boss and hug connection, Charlotte's record-breaking title reigns. For 9 years, these 4 carried the company. Well, excluding Sasha for the last couple of years, but yeah, these 4 carried women's wrestling on their very backs. And let's talk about Sasha Banks' departure from the WWE for a second. Yes, she left the WWE and the Four Horsewomen to pursue other wrestling goals. But let's dive into that real quick. Sasha Banks abruptly left the WWE and headed to New Japan, and eventually ended up in AEW. Her injury in NJPW during a match with Willow Nightingale was a pretty serious one and almost ended her career. But she found a way to work her butt off in a whole lot of extensive rehab to get back into the ring. With her signing at AEW, Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Mone, debuted in her hometown of Boston, and the crowd absolutely blew the roof off the building. I think it's safe to say that Mercedes is arguably the biggest name in AEW's women's division. These 4 ignited the flame and indeed started a revolution. One by one, big names in the women's wrestling industry popped up. Asuka, Kairi Sane, Io Shirai, and Alexa Bliss, just to name a few. The next and upcoming female superstars are far more confident in showcasing their skills on the main stage. What did the Four Horsewomen do? Put over the future of the women's division. Just like how Stone Cold did for The Rock, how The Rock did for John Cena, and how Cena did for Roman Reigns. It is time for the passing of the torch. Charlotte Flair put over Mommy, Rhea Ripley, in WrestleMania 39, which skyrocketed Ripley's career. Bayley elevated Io Sky into a main event caliber and gave her the perfect run as a heel in Damage Control. The man, Becky Lynch, showcased the raw talent of the women in NXT and put over the likes of Tiffany Stratton, Tegan Nox, and, of course, Lyra Valkyria, where she lost her title in her second stint with NXT. Times are changing, and the WWE wants to call it the Renaissance era. On the main roster, you've got Rhea Ripley, Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton, and the women in NXT are Cora Jade, Lyra Valkyria, and Roxanne Perez. The women's division is definitely stacked. It's more talented than ever. I don't know where Shawn Michaels is getting the talents for NXT, but he's definitely ballin'. So going back to that question at the beginning of the video where the reporter asked Rhea Ripley if the 4 horsewomen should step aside for the new generation of women wrestlers, here's what she had to say about that question.
They've done so much for the business, and I have all the respect for every single one of them. Accomplished so much. They took the women's division to heights that we could have only dreamt of. You know, the 4 horsewomen era, it will live on forever.
However, that's not where it ended. Here's what Becky Lynch had to say about Rhea's answer to that question. The window for the 4 horsewomen is definitely still open, but not for long. These 4 have done so much for women's wrestling. With Sasha doing side quests on other promotions, Charlotte sidelined to injury, Becky taking time off from wrestling, and Bayley doing her own thing and holding down the fort as WWE champion and putting up absolute cinema storylines for the women's division, it's time for them to guide the new generation of women's superstars and shape the future of the WWE. These 4 horsewomen should be treated as legends, absolute locks as Hall of Famers. For almost a decade, these 4 single-handedly changed the perspective towards women's wrestling, and they're not done yet. At some point in the future, all 4 of the 4 horsewomen will be back in the WWE, and when that time comes, we're gonna be here to witness it all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.